Hey nerds, we are back for another episode of What's Brewing. Wally here, and we just checked out Paradise Hops, a hop farm here in southern Alberta, just east of Vauxhall, about 10 or 20 minutes. It was a super awesome time, so check out this awesome footage, and we'll be back afterwards. Anytime.
Okay. Hey everybody, my nerds, Hermeta Nerds out here. We are at Paradise Hop Farm out here in Vauxhall, Alberta, and with me I've got Randy Adams.
Lynn Adams, Jen Peterson.
And we're going to have a little tour around the hop farm today and show what it looks like to grow local Alberta-made hops.
Oh, yeah. What type is this?
This is Cascade.
Okay.
These are really tiny.
Yeah, because but you can see they're full of lupulin.
Neat. Cool. Nice.
And they smell great.
Cool. I have some grown on my fence and I don't know what they're. Somebody said they're probably just like the old white rabbit hops.
Could be anything. Golding is really like an old world hop that would be really common.
Yeah. Well, it's just because Lethbridge has the Pilsner factory, right? So that's cool.
So what made you pick Cascade here? So let's back up, I guess. What kind are you guys doing here at Paradise?
So I think the other yard we started with 15 and we cut them back a couple. So there's Columbus. It helps me to go in alphabetical. Columbus, Cascade, Centennial, Chinook, Crystal, Nugget, Golding, Mount Hood, and there's some I'm missing. Willamette is there, and then we've added Tettnang and Comet here.
Wow, so like a whole bevy, eh? Is that common, or?
We didn't know when we started. There was no hop business in Alberta. So what do you start? So we did as much research as we could and what's publicly available. And we knew Cascade and Centennial, and then we really didn't know beyond that. So Columbus, for bittering, we thought, a Nugget for bittering.
Yeah.
And really it was we planted primarily Cascade and Centennial, and then when we started the second yard, we knew we wanted Cascade and Centennial, and we reserved one row sort of for Tettnang and Comet were the other two ones.
So is it just a matter of trying to find, because like for me, now you'll have to correct me on this, it was kind of my assumption that hops and like grapes were kind of interchangeable, like grew in the same type of area. So
yeah, similar.
When we heard that there were some people doing it in Southern Alberta, I was like, really? Like that's even possible? Yeah.
And that's what we heard a lot was it's too cold, you can't grow hops here. But when we did the research, there's the Northern Girls were the first ones in Alberta to do it, and they're near Edmonton. Right. So if they're growing them successfully in Edmonton, surely where they're growing corn and potatoes and all this stuff down here, that would be okay. And
so it's a matter of trying to just find something that'll take, something that'll work.
So the soil here is really sandy, and we have really great irrigation infrastructure and long hot days. So it's not that far removed from.
It's okay.
It's not all that far removed from, the Pacific Northwest, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. They have an earlier spring, and so it's a little more favorable there. Mm-hmm. But we've got enough frost-free days here that we've been able to get our crop off 4 years in a row. So.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Do they take a lot of watering?
Huge amount of water.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was wondering how mine were growing just naturally. It didn't make any sense to me because I don't water my lawn or anything.
A big mature hop plant can take like 2 gallons of water in a day because it evaporates so much through the leaves.
Like tomatoes.
Yeah. And when you see the hop plants at the other yard, they're massive. Like there's just so much foliage there that they need a lot of water, especially hot days.
Some of those hops you mentioned I've never even heard of.
Yeah, me either. Cool. Yeah. So how many acres do you guys do in total?
So we have planted 2 acres.
Yeah.
The two acreages really are. I think there's 18 acres between them, of which about 5 or 6 are planted. So we've got room to expand as we go. So what the story will tell you is that there's a huge amount of capital needed to process. It's not just growing them; you got to process them.
Right.
And so that's what we're at the point now where we have more production than we can hope to process, and so we either will stay here or we'll find more funding for more infrastructure.
Yeah.
Cool. That's excellent. So when you guys are doing, my other question I guess comes to sort of getting it to the people that need it. So is it like like, with wheat, you go to a board or a distributor. So do you guys, do you do that, or do people come to you direct? Do you go to them direct?
There's nowhere I can take my hops and drop them off.
Right.
Right. So I have to process them, I have to store them, I have to market them.
Right.
So it's in Alberta, because it's a new industry, it's about building relationships with brewers and finding a market for your hops.
And going to them directly.
Right.
Cool.
We're in an unusual position in that the hop market is a commodity market. And so when I show up at the door with Alberta hops packaged in 1 pound bags, they who are you and what, why are you here? When they've got a long lasting relationship with institutional brokers and those things. So it's really about making sure that those people that want local ingredients have access to them, and then around relationships to make sure that we can demonstrate the value and they see the value in local as well.
Which is excellent.
So are you finding with the growth of small breweries, and especially in Southern Alberta, you're getting more of those customers? Because like in Lethbridge, you have two. You have Fort McLeod, you have Pass has two. There's so many around here. Brooks has, Medicine Hat has 3.
Absolutely, and it's a bit of a challenge because we all still have day jobs.
Yeah.
Is how do I? So social media has been really good to make some contacts, and most of our customers have been, kind of Red Deer South. Is typically the people we sold to, and over time we'd like to get to a short list of customers that we can work with and sell our
most of it.
So on that note, then, if some of the locals, then, if some of the people who are watching, what are some beers that they may have had or could have, from Southern Alberta that would feature some locally grown hops?
Yeah, primarily fresh hop beers up till now. So we did fresh hop beers twice now with Grizzly Paw. I'll work west to east. Mill Street Brewing in Calgary has done wet hop beers 2 years in a row. Field and Forge last year did wet hop beers. I don't think there's any production beers at the moment using our Alberta hops, but we hope that'll change in the near future. Patty's Barbecue and Brew is an Alberta smash every year, and we're actually taking hops to them this week.
Nice.
Cool.
And
do you just trade like barbecue for cash? Always cash.
Cash out for barbecue there.
Outcast? Yeah.
Yeah, Outcast. They're doing a wet hop beer again this year, so we'll deliver those this week.
But that's very quick. You have to have them
Right. So
within a very short window,
we'll
right?
harvest them and have them to the kettle within 24 hours.
Okay.
Right.
Holy.
Is some of the advantage
24 hours?
Like, we'll be here, they'll be fresh.
Yeah.
So we don't
That's
want to
cool.
sell to northern Saskatchewan. We can't get it there.
Right. Not for that, right? That's super interesting.
That's just fresh.
Yeah.
And then you're hoping to get into production eventually, right?
Yeah.
Then some
So
people come.
this year, because of the COVID situation, the breweries for the most part are not doing fresh wet hop beers.
Right.
So now we have all this hops that we have to dry and process and find somewhere to cold store.
Somebody to get in there.
If you know anybody with a freezer, we're looking for one.
How big?
Come up,
Everybody's home freezers are full right now.
Right. Hops just jam packed.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very cool. So it takes about 3 years, right? You said to get sort of.
Yeah, the first year there's nothing. They're establishing a root base,
Yeah.
and you might get a few cones, but nothing really saleable. The second year, you see that there's some pretty decent cones there. They smell and behave like Cascade should. And the third year, really, you get more volume, and the fourth year, you should expect full.
So in that case, is it tough to switch varieties then? Is it one of the things where you get a variety, you kind of got to stick with it because it takes so long to...
Yeah, unless you're going to cull something. So, when we moved here, we culled 2 or 3 varieties from our other yard. So Magnum we took out, we didn't have a market for, and Northern Brewer's Gold is the other one we took out.
Okay. So then you don't have to do any rotation then of that, right? It's
So
just the same.
once that vine is established, 20 or 30 years, it just keeps coming back.
Excellent. I wondered about that. That one came from...
Like a bad weed, really.
Once it's
going.
in, well, which is
Yeah.
good, right? That's
It is.
super interesting.
So did you guys come into hops, or or is this something you decided to do?
We had a family vacation in BC, and we fantasized or whatever, talked about wouldn't it be cool to have a winery?
Yeah.
Always did.
And and so you look at the finances of that, and there's not really a compelling small vineyard story
Yeah.
there, because again, you've got all the production costs. And friends there actually had started a small hop yard, and that's really what got us thinking about hops. And can you grow them in Alberta? And we asked all those questions and did the math, and that was really at the start of the deregulation in Alberta. And so we started, I think, with 80 plants, and 80 plants turned into 1,000 plants, and 1,000
Wow.
plants turned into 2,000 plants, and yeah, so it's
Very, very cool. It's neat to have, like I said, a local story like that, where people were just amazed. The same thing, and like we're going to see a hop farm. We were talking about it on the thing. It's
Yeah.
like box office. Really? Absolutely. Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah.
So do you do other farming then?
Oh, we don't. I have a day job in IT.
Okay.
Spencer, our other partner, runs a grain elevator in
Yeah.
Brooks.
Okay.
Jennifer, the fourth partner, is works in a real estate office.
Oh, wow.
So we've all got day jobs.
Yeah, very
but
eclectic.
the two girls are sisters, and their family is cattle ranchers, and Spencer's family is grain farmers.
Okay.
Multi-generations.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
So these grow from like a weird. I was watching a video. I can't remember what they're called, but weird like little like. What would you call them? Like a bulb or something almost, right? Do they grow from like right from seed?
Rhizome.
Rhizome. That was it. Yeah.
So basically, there's a big root crown, and it goes spreads out and then goes down and makes a taproot.
Yeah.
And then every year it sends out a bunch of little shoots. And at the end of the year, you've got all these shoots, and they've got for next year little spikes on them, growing
Okay.
points, which is where new vines
Gotcha.
or vines
Okay.
the bee will come from.
Once
so if you
heard
cut
the word, I knew it.
that hunk of root off after dormancy, so once they've died off above ground, you can take that and plant it, and it will send new shoots and
Okay.
establish new roots.
So we can cut off our existing root system now and replant.
Right.
So this yard, this 1,000 plants was taken entirely from our other yard.
Okay. Nice.
Oh yeah. Nice.
So do you dry them and everything here? You do like, is there?
This is all we got.
This
So this is the smallest commercially available harvesting equipment you can buy.
Okay. Well, that's funny because we just did theoretically, and they're the smallest brewery, right? So yeah.
We'll be Tinyville.
Yes.
So you see, this is a dryer. So we've got overhead heat here in this garage. So we'll close it up when we're done working and
It'll
crank
be
the
like a
heat.
beer
And
sauna
overnight
in the
it'll
morning.
dry
Oh,
out.
really?
35 degrees. and
Camp
we'll
over.
just hit you.
Camp over.
The harvester is it's
A
a
Hop Harvester
Hop
1000.
Harvester 1000. Yeah.
Hop Harvester 1000.
This is manufactured in New York. We imported it.
Oh, neat.
And so we can show you that running. It's basically a bunch of chicken plucker fingers, and then a belt pulls the hops through, and then there's a sorter on the end. It's not especially efficient, so we have to do another process where we clean the hops afterwards.
Okay.
And it's a proprietary thing, so you can't see it on,
okay.
on camera, but
Sure. No, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
So as hop farmers, we hate spring because we have
Oh, you see, they look different. Yeah.
They just look different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a longer cone on them, eh?
yeah. And if you give those a rub together in your hand, last year I was just a lot of times smelling, so it should be
Yeah.
lots of citrus in there,
yeah.
some tropical sort of
We were talking about this.
fruit flavors.
Give her a whiff.
Oh, wow. We were
Right.
talking about this. I wonder if you just rub it, and if it's like, you know, with mint or basil, you can just rub it and smell it, right?
Yeah, you get, well,
Oh my God, that smells so
You
good.
can immediately smell the difference between these and the
Yeah,
your
they should be kind of piney.
Cascade,
and,
yeah.
These are like very like lemony, citrusy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very.
Orange.
Oh man,
So-
it's funny. Like you said, I assume you get tired of it, but for me, like, oh, it's so good.
Let's try it. Give it another whiff.
Give
there.
it a-
Oh man, that smells delicious.
And then they're just right full of lupulin.
Yeah.
It's the good stuff.
Yeah.
oh, so good.
So when they process it for dry hops, are they just shredding them and then drying them out?
So once we dry,
Because that's what they want is the
these
lupulin,
will
right?
be about 80% moisture.
Yeah.
and we want to get them down to 10%.
Okay.
And that's for storage. And then when they're at 10%, you can cold store them, away from oxygen, and they'll keep for years. And then it's really grind them to a powder, and then squeeze them through a die, and that's where you get pellets. So all that really happens is it's a compact storage form, and when you put them into beer to boil, they disintegrate to nothing, and they're manageable. The trouble with using a whole leaf hop is that if you try and pump it through a pump, you're going to get all plugged up. You got to take special sort of precautions, whether it's a hop back or a mash or something to contain all of that.
So that's what they do when they're doing like the fresh hop beers and stuff.
Yep.
Cool. So, like, how much would somebody like, say, Mill Street, when they're doing a fresh hop, because they're not only doing 500 liters or something.
Well, so
like how much would they
Calgary
use?
Is still a brew pub.
Yeah.
Right, where they're brewing for consumption in that restaurant. If you're drinking a Mill Street organic, it's brewed in a mega factory.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so there is that local aspect, even in a corporate owned brew pub.
Okay, so they're just making just a 500 liter thing, and
I mean, it might have been
because it doesn't last long either.
Yeah.
Right? Like
15 hectoliters. So it's not tiny.
Also very fast. So how many hops? Like how much would they take?
I think
for the batch.
So they did a dry hop right at the end of their boil, and I think they had 85 pounds or 100 pounds or something.
Okay, that much. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And it's about 4 to 6 to 1. So wet to dry 6 times. So this is made from coconut husks.
Yeah.
And it's really durable.
Yeah.
So if you use sisal or any other kind of thing, once you get a big full plant on here, there could be 40 or 50 pounds of foliage hanging there.
Oh, wow.
And right at the end of the season, when they're the heaviest,
Yeah.
the strings will break.
Oh, okay.
So you could use plastic, you could use a bunch of other stuff, but this is the only natural material that
Like vines are so
pretty thick, hey?
Yeah.
They get big and woody, and they're pretty tough.
So what's the growing season for them then? Like
So
when to when?
they'll break dormancy in late April usually, and then they're sending shoots like crazy.
Yeah.
And so we have to have the strings in the ground so they've got something to climb, because the tip of the growing tip is going to follow the sun.
Oh, okay.
And so they wind around this way looking for something to grow on.
Yeah.
And once they catch it, they're just pervasive. They'll grow a foot or 18 inches in a day.
Wow.
Holy.
And they'll do that until the days start getting shorter, the light starts to decrease.
Yeah.
And then they send these side arms. And the side arms is where they'll flower on.
Okay.
And every time they have a flower, then you get a hop cone. So these are all female plants. So we take them and from rhizomes or cuttings, so you get genetically identical females. If you happen to get a male, they're going to pollinate and you'll be full of seeds.
Oh, okay.
So we got to be really careful there's no males here or in the upwind areas.
Huh. Yeah, you're right. I can see it twisting, eh?
Yeah, and it just winds around, and they'll get kind of big as your finger.
Will they just grow wild on the ground like
They will. They'll
cucumbers
spread
would or
out,
something?
but if they're on the ground and wet, and we're behind in our weed management here, they're susceptible to mildews and molds and aphids and spider mites and a bunch of those things.
So when they're flowering, it just must be 1,000 pollinators out here.
Yeah, well, and they're not like flowers that are on sunflowers. They're like a little spiky burr.
Oh, okay.
And so the bees aren't actively trying to pollinate them. When they pollinate, the dust will basically brush off of one and land on the other. So
I heard that leaves are like poison ivy a little bit.
yeah,
You do get a rash.
you go home with itchy, cut up arms.
Some
Okay.
of us it affects more than others.
Yeah.
I try and always wear sleeves when we're doing this because
I'm the same for insulation.
it just
real
it
bad.
just
Yeah,
stings.
some people are worse than others. It's
Yeah.
really bad for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
So this wicked looking thing is a hop knife.
Okay. Very high tech.
So yeah, it's super sharp. And so what we'll do is we'll just cut the string and the bind at the bottom. And there's mechanization available to do this. But again, mechanization costs money. And pull it tight.
There you go.
There she goes. in the back of the truck.
Yeah. At the other yard, we have a trailer behind the truck, and we'll lay them on nicely.
With the larger plants,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, they're pretty heavy.
So let's take 2 or 3 here, and then we'll go back.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
run them through.
Pulled it, I thought.
Okay.
The big one. Okay.
Take those back.
Yeah, they're quite a bit bigger,
Oh, the big one.
wider.
So the sheep have eaten the bottom drop, so we don't
Yeah.
have any issues with airflow underneath.
Yeah.
Which when you get a big wall of hops, you can have trouble with airflow and
Oh, okay.
all that stuff.
So same kind that you have at the other farm. Just
We have Cascades and Centennials over there, which we have at the other farm.
okay.
This front half is Columbus, Mount Hood. There's some Chinooks back there. Willamettes over here.
Okay.
Nuggets back here as well. So, but you can see you get these big walls of hops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Thick that is. This is 1 year older.
These are fourth years.
Fourth years, and those are
season.
second years, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're mature now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so you get this thing that
Just big around. Yeah.
Yeah. So do they just repeat year after year after
Yeah,
year?
so,
Those keep going.
where the vines have grown.
Yeah.
Next year there'll be a new set of shoots that come out of there.
Okay.
And we'll pick the best 3 or 4 from each plant to tie up, and then the rest we'll all cut back.
Okay. So how big will they get? Like how, or is this about as wide as it? Like giant? Yeah.
And these are golding here now that you're looking at.
Okay.
And on your left will now be nugget.
Okay. Yeah.
Oops, the head of that next sign. These, from here back are now our nugget.
These are nugget. And you said these are just bittering hops, right?
Bittering hops, yeah. We love them because they're super easy to harvest. They have really tight, dense cones.
Yeah.
And they just, they're really nice to harvest.
They look like really young pine cones, or like really young tree cones.
Nooks are right here.
So, we're gonna give the Chinooks a go.
Okay.
Get them warmed up a little bit in there and get all the lupulin glands broken up.
Yeah, it's got that real piney.
Yeah. Oh, it smells so good.
Smells tasty.
Really,
It
really
smells
hoppy,
like, yeah.
hoppy IPA.
Oh, super fun.
You like IPA?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what got us in the first. That was what.
Those are got us in the
That's
beer.
what got
But
us into
this
the beer
reminds
thing.
me of like the old style, like where it's just hop,
Randy
hop,
liked
hop,
it
hop,
all.
hop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too now.
Yeah.
I mean, when we first
100%.
we talk a little bit about it with our channel. When we first got going, that's what we chased, was that the bitterest, the biggest, everything we could find, and then it sort of expanded beyond there. I tend to have drinking seasons,
Yeah.
like so when it's cool out, like I'm just gonna start. Just the other day, I was thinking about like I could use a good brown, like we're starting to get into that sort of season.
It's almost
Or
Oktoberfest.
pumpkin
Yeah.
spice.
Pumpkin spice, yeah. My wife loves pumpkin beer, but yeah, like that's sort of into the porters. I poured a porter into my chili the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's almost time, to start getting back to that." Like,
But we like sours a lot. And
yeah, I did a lot of fruit beers this summer. Like
Yeah.
it seemed to be they were all over the place, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, good."
everything really. So
Everything really, yeah.
The only one that I can't, I understand what it's supposed to taste like. I just can't get past saisons.
Oh yeah,
oh,
farmhouse, yeah.
I'm the same way. There's something it doesn't taste. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's the coriander, like the spiciness. I
the
just
clove,
don't like.
yeah. Yeah, some people in, and some. But everybody's got a kind of a thing.
Because use like the Brettanomyces and stuff, that weird funky thing. I just not into. Yeah.
Well,
like-
we
like
were talking about milkshake
rubber.
and how that was like milkshake IPAs was a thing with like lactose in it, and you're like, maybe not. Everybody's got that. But yeah,
And my experience has been you get all the floaties on the bottom, and
Yes.
The
Super.
poops,
Yeah.
yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
very, very unfiltered.
cool.
All right, so we'd like to thank Paradise Hops Farm for having us out. We learned a ton out here. It was pretty awesome. Never really seen anything like it. I didn't know how hops grew. We had so many questions after on the way home. So hopefully we can make another visit or out to another hop farm and learn a little bit more. Here's some extra footage we took. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, like, subscribe, comment below what you thought, and check out Paradise Hops, especially if you're a home brewer or a bigger brewer. All right, well, thanks for watching.